How hot is it where you're from?
Not like this. Summers it'll get cooking. Like June and July can get pretty warm. Like we'll see 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
For like a week or two? Or
yeah, you normally get a couple hot weeks,
Gotcha.
kind of in the early summer, and then August is probably our most reliably best weather month.
August.
Yeah. September is normally good too because it's the first month of fall.
Yep.
Tends to be a little bit drier, but it's the West Coast. It rains
You always get rain.
constantly.
How much rain do you get?
I don't even know. Meters.
How many days a week do you think? Like, put a number.
I mean,
on
it's
it.
got to rain at least 50% of the days,
Like
if not
Seattle style?
more. Yeah, more than Seattle. Wow. Same. Like they're only 3 hours away, so it's got to be relatively the same. But because we're literally right on the coast and kind of at the corners, it tends to dump on us a whole bunch, and we're kind of behind Vancouver Island, so it comes over the island and then just pisses.
I'm so jealous. I love the rain.
I don't mind it at all, and I find it easier to be productive. I like working in the basement where it's dark, and when it's raining outside, I don't feel like I should be doing anything else.
Yeah,
like,
that's a vibe.
Love it.
It is a work vibe.
Yeah, even
for
as
sure.
you just said that, I was like, oh yeah, I totally know exactly what he's saying.
You have no want to go
Nope.
outside and do anything else.
Nope.
Like just get shit done.
Yeah, this time in Cedar, it's like 70 degrees.
When
and
it's nice
sunny and
outside, it's
no
like,
wind. I don't want to do
should be
anything.
doing something. I should go outside. I should go shoot my bow.
I just want to be up at the range or anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere but at my desk.
Yeah,
No,
my wife hates it with a passion, the rain.
Yeah, she
Imagine how big our mule deer would be if we had that much rain down here.
They're big enough as it is, so just chill out. We have the rain and we still don't have those mule deer.
Yeah. Well, we should do introductions. So we have Jay Nichol on the podcast, the Mindful Hunter. Appreciate you coming in. You're just here on vacation, right?
I am. Just came down for a few days and it was just coincidental timing. So yeah, worked out.
Gotcha. Yeah, you said you wanted to pop in, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be there on Thursday. Let's jump on and do a podcast together.
Yeah.
Worked out.
Which is something that you're used to doing. You got your own podcast.
I do.
Your own YouTube channel. Gotcha. You've been to Vegas before?
Once for Jiu-Jitsu World Championships back in, my kid wasn't born yet and she's 9, so 10 years ago.
Are you competing?
Yeah. Just blue belt.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How'd you do?
I won my first match and I got
Nice.
smoked in my second. But I won a match at Worlds.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, it's a notch on the belt.
Is that something you kept up with? You still
No,
still
man,
there?
kids nuke that stuff
Yeah.
fast. Evening classes, if anything, go out the window.
Just to be clear, kids nuke everything really
Yeah.
fast.
100%.
Yeah, whatever hobby it is
It's
that you've
gone.
got,
Yeah,
you,
it's
you,
gone.
You do far less of it.
Yeah, she actually
crazy.
just asked me the other day because it came up. That's why I was here last time. And she's like, why don't you do that anymore? And I'm like, well, don't take it the wrong way, but it's your fault. Yeah, but she's old enough now. I got one knee issue I'm trying to work out, but the goal is to start again and bring her with me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool. I've never done any jiu-jitsu. Everybody's talking about it. Seems like the thing to do.
Yeah, it is
you know,
like the thing
Nick
to do
that
nowadays.
used to work here, he's heavy into it.
Yeah.
It's really taken off a lot.
Yeah, really taking off. A lot of people.
All grappling has. I mean, a lot of different fighting styles have, but grappling and jiu-jitsu especially
Probably be good for
really
me, huh?
taken over. Here, I mean, you're very similar to me. I refuse to do anything to get hurt to not hunt.
Yeah.
And there's a very high injury risk, like very high.
Probably more so when you don't know what you're doing, huh?
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
just sitting there flailing around like
Yeah.
a dead fish. You're probably more likely to get
Yeah.
hurt.
When somebody's got your arm and shoulder and you move the wrong way,
Yeah.
because you don't know which way to go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Should we hit promo before we get going too deep?
Rip it trail.
All right. So you guys can use the promo code podcast when you sign up for a GoHunt Insider account. When you do that, you're going to get $50 back in the GoHunt gear shop. You can use that towards the purchase of any gear that you want in the shop. So now is still a great time. We talked about it last podcast, but there's still a bunch of applications coming up. Even getting into like some of the OTC stuff in the summer when those go on sale in states like Colorado or Utah. Has everything that you would need to know to help you find and buy a tag. So use the promo code podcast when you sign up. We'd appreciate that.
We definitely would.
And then
do you fly down here?
I want to jump in for a second and give my like third party, seeing as reviews or what I do. So I think I've been a GoHunt member for 8 years, and GoHunt gets a large part of the credibility for my first archery elk. 2019, New Mexico. Brady's here, so I probably already screwed up by mentioning the state, but I won't mention the unit, even though I've got a video up on YouTube of this hunt. But yeah, drew like an insanely low percentage archery elk tag, second, like late archery, that like prime rut one.
Yep.
And went down there solo, 36-hour drive from Vancouver.
Oh my gosh, 36 hours.
Yeah. And
got it done
on day 5 solo at
awesome.
10,000 feet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that was from GOHUNT. And I've been a member straight for the last 8 years.
Did you,
Yeah.
do you remember what choice it was that you drew? Was it your first choice?
I think it was my first choice.
Gotcha.
Because it was like going back over it, it was like my shoot the moon.
Yep.
Not that everything in New Mexico isn't shoot the moon, but
Sure.
yeah.
That's what I'm planning to do here in 2 weeks is draw my first choice.
Yeah.
Let's go, Trail.
coming up quick.
My results. Yeah, we just talked about that. I can't wait for that green box in New Mexico. You know,
Dude, it's the best.
Did you apply?
Oh yeah.
Gotcha, every
I
year?
went heavy on applications this year. I was a couple years I've done building points, but now that almost all the states have switched to having some random element, I think you have to apply every year, especially with point creep. Like it's the only way that you're going to consistently draw tags.
Yeah.
So yeah, I applied basically everywhere that I could. I think I've been building points in 5 or 6 states for the last 8 years. So starting to get semi-dangerous in a couple of them. But yeah. I got high hopes for New Mexico again this year.
You're from BC, right?
Yeah.
You're from Canada.
Yeah.
Our neighbor to the north, friendly neighbors to the north.
Yeah.
I'm interested in why you apply in the States because you have plenty of, and that's like part of the podcast I want to get into. I want to understand Canada a little bit and what you do up there and what's available and how it all works. But I'm curious as to why you apply and how much you apply. And I mean, is it commonplace for people where you're
Not
from?
as common as you would think. I get questions all the time like, you can hunt in the States?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, bro. Non-resident is non-resident. They don't care if you live in Delaware or Tajikistan.
Yeah.
Like it
They'll
don't
take it.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a mutual friend that I just found out yesterday because I was on his podcast. So Kevin Toy.
Oh yeah, he's a good buddy. Kevin's amazing.
Yeah, and I love that guy's podcast. I've been hitting him up, being like, "Man, I'm a huge fan of what you're doing right now, having all the target archers and everything." But that was one of the questions we talked about. Was he was like, I didn't really know that like you could, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, I've got friends from the UK, I've got friends from Australia that all apply, and
Yeah. New Zealand.
yeah, New Zealand. Yeah,
Alaska
friendly
is the
camp
only
in
place
New
we're not
Zealand.
allowed to hunt unguided.
for some species.
Yeah, or any species. I can't hunt unguided in Alaska for anything.
We're allowed to hunt caribou.
You guys are. I'm not.
What can we all hunt unguided?
Interesting.
Yeah.
We can hunt.
Yeah, we can hunt black bear, caribou,
Caribou.
moose. We can't hunt mountain goat. We can hunt muskox.
We could do
Actually, if you can get there, if you can figure out the logistics and draw the tag, you can do that unguided. You can't do sheep,
Bison you
mountain
can do.
goat. Yeah, bison you could do on your own. So yeah, there are some, but a Canadian can't.
No, nothing. Yeah, because I tried to do one of those like combo Kodiak black bear fishing trips, and they told me I think it's called like a non-landed or non-something alien, and you can't do anything without a guide.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
If anybody could hunt Alaska, it'd be a Canadian. Like
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
same-
we're talking safety issues. Like, it's kind of like my backyard. It's like 100%. Yeah.
Not the same.
Yeah.
Apparently not the same.
So what draws you to the West though? Why do you apply in the West?
So there's 2 very simple answers. Number 1 is adventure. I love going new places, which probably is one of the reasons for some of my lack of success some years. Like I'm just not the like go the same spot every year, do the same thing. And the funny thing is the longer I hunt, the more I'm trying to work that in because I think that's also part of a well-rounded strategy. I think you need to be playing both strategies at the same time. And I got a little too focused on like the epic adventure hunts for a while. And you don't realize like how hard those actually are, rocking up to some unit you've never been in a state you've never been in, you know, hunting trails you've never walked on. And so adventure was number 1. Number 2 was access to information. So I started out hunting younger in life, like moose. I come from Ontario, which is like Canada's Michigan. And so
What does that mean?
Actually, it makes total sense in my mind. I got that immediately.
we've got the same animals. It's the same terrain. They tend to be similar political environments. Like they're right across the lake from each other. So it helps give Americans an idea, like where does this sit in like the cultural reference of what Canada is? It's like, it's our Michigan.
God, that was a great reference.
And so moose hunting was a big deal in my family, but they were like once a year over Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, not American Thanksgiving. So like first week of October, my dad, my 2 uncles, and my grandpa would be moose camp. But moose camp was like 15 dudes hunting 1 tag if you're lucky and probably a cow tag. Like very few and far between. It'd be a wall tent at the end of a logging road. There was probably more cases of beer than bullets in camp. Like it was very
Canadian.
old school.
Gentleman's hunt.
Moose camp.
Some Molson cases.
Yeah, but my family was more Labatt's, but close enough. Yeah. And so I did that a couple years when I was young. I want to say 12 and 13 or 13 and 14. And had a falling out with my old man on that side of the family. Didn't talk to them for a bunch of years. Went off and did a bunch of different stuff. And then later on in life, in my early 30s, got back into hunting. But I didn't really have a hunting community, even though we lived in BC. And what people don't understand about BC is the barriers to entry. Like it is insanely overwhelming. We don't have any of the access to the data that you guys have. We don't have trail systems like you guys have. There's no, like, it's just a completely different world. So when you're like, you watch some, YouTube video of a stone sheep hunt, you're like, I want to go do that. Like extremely high barrier to entry. And and to be brutally honest, mostly from just YouTube content, I was getting fascinated with archery elk hunting. More rut elk hunting, and then I realized if you want to hunt elk in the rut in the States, you have to have a bow, except for one state.
This guy gets it. Trail. Brady, take note.
I do land on that side of the spectrum. And so I wanted to go archery elk hunting. I didn't know what to do in BC, and it was like places like GOHUNT were a big part. Like it's like, okay. And the thing is, I haven't figured out if it actually gives you a real competitive advantage or it just gives you the psychological benefit of comfort. Like, not to be critical, but I don't actually think the unit profiles on GOHUNT or anything you find on GOHUNT are any real competitive advantage because everybody's got access to it. But it gives you enough confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to go. And then once you get there, you end up figuring it out anyway. So you probably have similar luck in both places, but it was the access to information. There was way more content about how to hunt in the States. And now after doing both for 10 years, it is different. Like, and I even think different animals behave differently in different states, but like I can comment with 100% certainty, like as a general rule, hunting elk in the States is significantly different than hunting elk at home. And most of the content about how to learn to do that was all focused on stuff in the States.
Interesting.
How so? How's it different?
One, the level of vocality. Our elk are not nearly as vocal as yours.
I wonder why that is.
I think it's the density of the timber and the presence of wolves.
Yeah.
You're hunting dark. 99% of where you hunt elk in BC is like super dense timber. And so they're just not calling to themselves across these meadows. I don't think it serves the same benefit that it does down here. And our population densities are way lower, like way lower than the lowest density state. Yeah. We don't have the aggressive wildlife management that the States does. That's the other thing I really respect. It's approached more like a business down here. And I think because you guys got so close to losing everything, like post-war and all that kind of stuff, when people just went nuts, that you know what you have to do to keep it. Where BC in a lot of ways is fat and greedy. I was a forestry engineer for 15 years. You would think BC would be a world leader in forestry practices, and we're a laggard because we have so much timber. There's just like wasteful practices and really lazy logging, and it's like it's pretty brutal compared to like Europe or New Zealand or these places that have super high tech. And our wildlife management is the same because if we do nothing whatsoever, it's kind of okay for the most part. Yeah. Like you can become complacent with wildlife management in British Columbia. And so I think population density, the density of the timber, and the long-term presence of wolves have just trained these animals. Yeah, also, we have rifle season in the rut.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I still hunt. I always hunt with a bow in the rut. And I know it's going to get people angry, but I just really don't see the point of using a rifle during the rut for elk. I'm not interested in doing that. But the amount of times I've been up in a drainage and you're getting a couple bugles close to sundown, you set up your tent, you're like, it's on tomorrow. And then right before legal shooting light ends, you hear one gunshot and you wake up to a ghost town. Yeah, whole drainage is gone.
Shut down.
Yeah. And so I think that's trained them. The one time a year when they tend to be more vocal, they get instantly, first couple days, they'll start piping off, and then you hear a couple gunshots, and they just shut up.
Get the feedback. What's hunting culture like in BC? Do you know a lot of people that hunt?
I do now more through social media than anything. I'm a hardcore introvert, like big social anxiety, hate groups of people. And people always think that's hilarious because if you go back in my life, I have all these like public, I was a DJ for 10 years. Now I have this podcast.
DJ.
What was your DJ name?
Grasp the Arrow. Which is hilarious because it's spelled ERRO, but it did have part of one of the like metaphorical, purpose of his name was part of an arrow, and I'd never shot a bow in my life when I picked that name, so it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Came full circle.
An introverted DJ.
You
That's
manifested it.
interesting.
Yeah. One of the things I've realized about myself, it's not about being around people, it's about having like role clarity.
Yeah.
Like if I know what I'm supposed to do, like we're doing a podcast right now, kind of know who you guys are, I know what my role is, I know what your role is, golden. You stick me in one of those like business networking events where you're just supposed to walk up to people with name tags and shake their hands. My palms get sweaty. I sit in a corner. Like I hate it.
Yes.
I think we're the same way. At least I know Trail and I are.
Oh yeah, I've known that Jay was a kindred spirit from an early go. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll need a nap. Yeah. It's a stretch. I totally get it. I mean, we always hear. Is there a lot of anti-hunting sentiment in through BC?
So we're pretty hard left.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had a conservative provincial government since the 80s, and we got within 2% this year. And so
Really?
Yep. It was the closest we've been since like 1989 or some crazy thing. I'm probably misquoting that, and somebody will flame me in the comments. But yeah, it's been decades since we've had a conservative government. It's either been NDP or Liberal, and NDP is like the left of left.
Okay.
Like they're even lefter than left.
Do you think that's a relationship between American politics? How much influence do you think American politics has on Canadian politics? Because we have a state like California that's the same thing. I mean, we just had an election and it flipped, not flipped, but it got way closer than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So do you think it?
We are heavily influenced. I think the leftness of the state is more of a function of coastal than anything, just like California. I think it drew those personalities of people years ago, and then it's just perpetuated since then. There's been a very interesting effect since Trump took office in Canada. So our prime minister resigned, Justin Trudeau, total asshat, drove the country into a ground. I don't know how you screw up Canada. We have more natural resources than anybody, more space than anybody, more almost everything than anybody, more energy, more water, and somehow he increases deficit, destroys the economy, like went insane during the pandemic. Like, anyways, I don't need to rant about Trudeau. He resigns and then doesn't leave office for months, which I don't even know how is legal possible. And then they bring in a guy who has never even held an elected position, Mark Carney. And it felt like we were watching an episode of House of Cards. And it turns out Carney's been the one running this guy, Trudeau, for all these years. He's this economist. Anyways, right when Trudeau left office, it was the first time that I felt like a swelling of more conservative beliefs. Even when it comes to like the gender issue and the pronoun issue, like that stuff's hardcore in Canada. Like Justin Peterson, Jordan Peterson. He's a Canadian that got removed from his post because of all that stuff. And we were finally like that stuff was reducing and like more like reasonable approaches were coming back in. Then Trump took office. And I'm definitely that side leaning for sure. But because he went as hard as he did in the paint on some things, it completely it had a counterbalancing effect in Canada. And now people are like, anything that's not Trump. And so we were like building this momentum towards conservatism. And then because he went so hard at like, bam.
Interesting.
And Carney's a genius because he called an election right now. April 28th is our federal election. And he timed it perfectly because if it was 2 months ago, slam dunk conservative leader. But now, because everybody's got this anti-Trump thing going on in Canada, I'm legitimately nervous about what the outcome's going to be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I know it all works together, but as far as like wildlife management, what is wildlife management like in BC? I mean, do you draw tags? Do you buy tags over the counter? Do they manage for quality hunts? I mean, how does it all work, and what species can you actually hunt?
I should probably take up a picture. I don't. It's like it's in the double digits the amount of species that I can hunt over the counter. I'll try and look it up while I while I talk here. The thing that you're dealing with in British Columbia is basically like a decades old kind of sense of entitlement to over-the-counter tags.
Sure.
People want over-the-counter tags. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to read off the list of over-the-counter tags that I purchase every year.
Do you purchase these every year?
There's my tags.
This is from
That's
your
insane.
okay.
Yeah.
This isn't like for people
Nope.
listening. This isn't like he just looked it up on the rules and regs page or something. These are actually a screenshot
picture of his
It's a
tags.
picture of his tags.
Yeah. So 2 white-tailed deer, 2 mule deer, which are good for mule deer or black-tailed deer, 1 elk, 1 cougar, 2 black bear, 1 mountain sheep, which can be thin horn or bighorn. We have multiple species of sheep just to like grind that knife a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
1
definitely.
moose, 1 wolverine, 1 bobcat, 1 lynx, 1 mountain goat, and I don't have it here, but 1 bison.
Buy all that over the counter.
That's all that is over the counter, and all of those tags together cost me about $350.
So, wow.
So there must not be that many people that hunt if they can afford to do that.
There's not that many people that kill.
Okay.
So here's the thing. This is the counterintuitive element of British Columbia. Because we have so many opportunities and we have so much area,
Yeah.
you think there's going to be animals everywhere. But I mean, I know where you took your stone sheep. You can go days without seeing an animal up there. Like you can go on an entire stone sheep hunt. The only thing you might see is a handful of sheep. And in the back of your mind, like you are destroying the landscape with glass. You think you would be seeing like herds of moose. Like when you come down here, I will see hundreds of elk by the time I'm done a 10-day trip. They might not be great. They might be cow, but I mean, you're going to see animals. When you get into the deep wilderness, I think what a lot of people don't recognize is that unadulterated wilderness does not naturally produce high density of animals. You need to break it up, which is why you go into areas with high logging, animal populations go up. You go in with like these broken urban environments and edge habitat, animal densities go up. When you start doing all this like trail maintenance and like providing access, animal populations go up. And in British Columbia, like especially that area where you were, you can go hundreds of miles and there's not even a trail on the map. There's an odd outfitter trail, but unless you have like a blood relation to the outfitters who put that trail in there, it's not on any maps anywhere. There's no public way to know how to get around. So it's literally just a wall of wilderness. And so the population density is just not there. And then the local knowledge about how to get in there. A lot of these places you might need to get dropped off by a plane. You might need to run a jet boat. Hiking in because there's no trails. I have had sheep hunts where like a mile and a half was a good day. Like when you're down in the willows, hopefully you find a moose trail, but you're so far back in, there's no outfitter trails. You know, you're in there for 10, 12 days. You got a 70, 80 pound pack. Like you just cannot. I watch these people down here. Oh yeah, we did 18 miles today. And I'm like, what? Like it would just never happen in British Columbia. Like the sense of scale is just completely different. And we don't have, and I don't want to be too critical of BC wildlife management practices, but you can see by their approach to tags, and we do have some limited entry. For instance, my big thing that I always want to draw is archery elk on the island, because it's one of the only elk tags in BC that's archery only in the rut.
Rosies?
Rosies, yeah, correct. And so there's a few of those. Some of the highly sought after sheep tags, there's still a lot of draw areas for sheep. A lot of our doe tags are draw. Most of those, because even though I have all those tags, there's still unit by unit restrictions on what I can take, where I can take it, when I can take it, and all that kind of stuff. But it's always been opportunity over everything. Like the trophy culture is not as strong in British Columbia as the opportunity culture. Like it's almost, I don't want to say it's looked upon negatively, but yeah, it's definitely not the same as it is down here at all.
Yeah, different.
So do your draw hunts, are they random draw or are they a point system?
They're random draw, and for most species, you get reduced draw odds 3 years following the draw. So for something like a moose, if I drew a bull moose tag in a certain unit for 3 years later, and I don't know by how much it reduces, I just know you have a lower likelihood for 3 years. And I think in 8 years of putting in, I've drawn 1 goat tag. Like, so everybody always complains about the draw system a lot because it's one of those things where it feels like some people keep drawing, and other people never draw. And I'm sure you guys hear about that all the time.
There's all kinds of theories.
We hear lots of
here.
things. That's actually one of my favorite things. I love draw theories. You know? Those are my jam.
best.
Those are fun to dive down rabbit holes and explore with folks. But how do you prioritize what you want to hunt with all those tags?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. A lot of it comes down to like experience, like I'm very fortunate. I hunt for a living now.
Sure.
So I spent 128 days hunting last year. So I get to do a lot of stuff in a lot of different areas. And so a lot of what I try and talk about to people on the podcast is like, if you do only have 1 or 2 hunts a year, ask yourself more, what am I trying to get out of these hunts than what do I want to kill? Like, is it a backcountry, isolated, severe experience? Is it a wall tent, logging road, fellowship experience? Is it fun? Is it type 2 fun? Like, what do you want? And then build your hunts around that. So I try really hard. Solo hunting is probably my biggest passion. Deep winter goat hunting. So I can hunt mountain goats over the counter in February. So I went on a mountain goat hunt this year. It was 5 nights at minus 27 degrees Celsius. So that's like minus 17 Fahrenheit. I got frostbite on 2 toes. And that's one of my hunts that's like a deep passion. Like I love hunting mountain goats in the winter, but I love solo hunting in the backcountry. I like the challenges that it presents. And I've probably given up a lot of chances at success because I have this like vision in my head of how I want to do something.
Yeah,
and it's kind of more important than exactly. So now what I try to do, because I leaned too far one way for too many years where I wanted to be the baddest guy on the mountain. And then you don't have success a couple and just go, okay, maybe I need to dial that a little bit, go kill some things, and then we'll get a little bit badder and do. And so also I realized I was missing out in my desire. I had this belief that if I didn't figure out how to do it myself, it didn't count. I was somehow cheating. So really bad at looking for mentors and really bad at finding hunting partners, even though I think that's an incredibly difficult thing to do.
For sure.
And so I realized after doing all this solo stuff, I'm like, there's this whole other, and you talking about it a lot with like your family stuff.
Yeah.
There's a whole other element of hunting that's not just the badass solo stuff. It's the fellowship with your friends, your family. A good buddy of mine, Vance, who lives in Alberta, is now my hunting partner. We did goats last year. And it was like one of those hunts where it's like that Step Brothers, did we just become best friends? I was just like,
You want to go do karate in the garage?
Like I will go to the ends of the world for this guy. And I know, and it's like to have that friendship now, like I never would have had that without hunting. So now it's more like, okay, take a look at the year. What times can I go? Like when can I go on hunts? And then what do I want each of those hunts to accomplish? And now the even bigger contributing factors that literally just last week closed on a hunting territory in BC. So I now have a 3,000 square kilometer hunting territory that I'm the outfitter for. So I do black bear, mule deer, and mountain goats. And so having to put that into my schedule. And I did a lot of guiding last year, so I had to kind of fit that in. So now it's like a function of, okay, what do I need to do for business? What's that going to satisfy? And then what do I need to do? What do I need to do for myself? And then but normally it's a function of, okay, there needs to be at least 1 or 2 like hardcore 10, 12 day backpack hunts.
Get your fix.
Yeah. And then there has to be some kind of deep winter hunt in there somewhere.
I'm out on the deep winter.
February minus 17.
I'm out on that one.
So that'd be one you want to do maybe every so often, but not all that often.
I end up talking myself into it every other year. And I didn't realize I was doing that until I went this year and realized the last 6 years, it's literally every other year I end up. But it's special. And then for me, bears are like my fun. They're the only thing that I can hunt stress-free. Everything else, and I'm working harder on this. By day 4 or 5, I'm a nutcase because like there's not something dead on the ground. I really apply a lot of pressure to myself, but for some reason, maybe because I always end up killing a bear, I just don't put the same pressure. I also think the lack of antlers, like you don't have that same psychological connotation with like trophy size. And like a 6-foot black bear and a 7-foot black bear kind of look like the same thing. You know what I mean? Like they're not, whereas like a 140 mule deer and a 180 mule deer are like 2 completely different creatures. And so that's where I tend to want to have my fun is with black bears.
And your seasons are long.
Super long.
Like when can you, like you can start in the summer, right?
Yeah, you hunted
So my black bear's open right now. So my black bear runs from April 1st to June 30th.
Yep.
So I have 3 months that I can hunt black bear. Now, functionally speaking, I run my camp from May 1st to June 15th because I'm looking at snow levels and other stuff, and I want to focus on the best part. But we can do, so there's literally maybe 3 months a year I can't hunt something because goat will take me all the way up into February. You can kind of say March and April are right off because April there's still so much snow. Not many people are hunting bears and they're not very active yet. Then you can go all the way to the end of the June with bear. July is off. And then in a lot of the province, goat and sheep open August.
Yeah.
And then you're rolling. We have deer seasons that go all in certain regions all the way to the middle of December. So you can roll straight through from August to the end of December. And then you're into goat for January and February. So it's literally like March, April, and July. You can't. Even March and July are the only 2 months. Oh, and even then you can probably still kill wolves and cats in some region.
So with all these over-the-counter tags, and like you can go hunt anywhere pretty much, do you guys have mandatory harvest success, or do they have any real reason
Harvest
to know?
reporting, you mean?
Yeah. Harvest reporting, yeah.
On certain animals, you have compulsory inspections. So for moose in certain regions, goats, sheep, all that kind of stuff, you mandatory have to go in, and you will be sent a harvest report every year. I think actually just this year, depending on the tag that you pull, I actually, that's not true. It wasn't just a goat tag. I drew a moose tag this year. We had this really weird political situation that happened in British Columbia where they took away a lot of the over-the-counter moose, but then they just turned it into 1-to-1 draw. So it's kind of like a gimme
you have
tag.
to apply for it, but you get it.
But they're making you pick a window. So your tag used to be good for 2 months. Now you got to pick a 2-week window. So because I was going to be elk hunting anyways, I got one of these kind of crappy moose tags. And I realized this year, for the first time, if I didn't fill out my harvest report, I wouldn't be eligible for the draw next year. But our harvest data is really bad. Like, there are some places that you can find some of it because
It's hard
it
to
lacks
access it.
mandatory, and our areas are massive. Like, so I have 2 MUs. My hunting territory is 2 MUs, and that's 3,000 square kilometers. Like, our MUs are like the size of multiple counties in some places, especially like up where you were. Like, I'm sure where you've hunted moose before, like they'd be the size of a small state. Like it's so deciphering the data, it's like, okay, well, that many mule deer was killed there, but what does that even tell me? You know what I mean? Like there's 3 different mountain ranges in there.
Right.
They don't know a lot of population data as well, or they do a lot of population studies up there to figure. Because like, the thing I'm just getting in my head is like, obviously, over the counter you can hunt everything, but like the population of hunters, you can't like. Can literally 3,000 people go mountain goat hunting, and then if half those people kill, is that it's still a viable population? Like,
This doesn't sound to me like based on logistics to actually get to that country.
yeah,
that,
it's like, that's why you don't have a
that
lot
you
doing
couldn't
it.
get. Yeah, it seems like the terrain and the logistics of actually doing a hunt like that are so high.
Yeah.
That just the barrier of entry just keeps people out.
It's kind of funny. I never put my finger on it until you just said it. I've always said we got complacent with wildlife management. I think we also have a lot of naturally moderating factors.
Yeah.
Like you're 100% right. There's just, you can tell, yes, everybody. If you, we did experience, so sheep kind of post-COVID, sheep hunting got real popular. And the one thing you want to look at every year is the amount of underage sheep that get confiscated.
Yeah,
because
I
when
keep
that
seeing
number
people
starts
talking.
to skyrocket, that's a function of what you're talking about. And that's people who don't know what they're doing, going into the mountains, doing things they don't know how to do.
Yeah.
And then, like, listen, if they kill the wrong, I don't want to overemphasize one species to another, but killing an underage sheep or killing a nanny goat has a much more profound impact on that population than maybe killing the wrong deer does.
Yeah.
So we tend to pay more attention to those types of things.
And it is something too I saw when like we were talking earlier, we're in my office, like I killed the moose with my bow in British Columbia, and I killed the mountain goat with my bow in British Columbia. And while we were going in, like it was literally a barrier of entry to get in there. Like we parked at a spot, crossed a river. We ATV'd, I think, for like 4 hours on an ATV driving. And then we picked up horses from there, got on horses. And all of a sudden they were like, okay, this is the spot right here where we've seen resident hunters will go. But pretty much beyond where we're going to go now, resident hunters don't go that far because, again, the trail system was crazy. There wasn't anything marked. There was no map. But they all knew the trails. Like, yeah, we really don't see residents past this point. And that's why we go a little bit further. But like anything below that, we could run into residents. They'll be moose hunting and good on them for moose hunting. But like, it's just a barrier of entry to get further in there without the ATVs, the horses, and then, random airstrips that are out there. Like,
BC sounds gnarly.
It's very gnarly. The people who do really
insane.
well in BC are these old family camps. They know these areas. They've nurtured them over decades, and they go in there with like a convoy. Like they might have jet boats, they've got quads, they've got bikes, they've got travel trailers,
Horses.
and it's like 9-10 dudes, a wall tent, and they go up there as a group and they hunt as a group, and they'll
Right.
come home with 2 elk, 2 moose, and a caribou, and that type of style. So that's why this kind of like newer hunter, this like DIY
Yeah,
backpack
hard to get
guy,
into.
you get your ass kicked in BC.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Because I can't compete with the guys on the horse. When I finally started having elk hunting success by myself in BC, it was when I realized I had to combine the quad with my feet, because I couldn't compete with the guys in the quads, because you go up there and the dudes are just quadding around and bugling off of all the deactivated roads. And even if I hike every single daylight hour there is, I might only get down 1 or 2 of these roads to get to the end where I can like dump off. And then once I integrated the quad and realized, okay, I'm going to quad to the end of the road, dump off, go do my 2-3 hour hike, do that more bivvy, like cover ground and bugle till I find something style. That's when I started that hybrid approach. But you gotta have something in BC. Like it's not like Montana or Wyoming. Like I shouldn't speak in such absolutes, but for the most part, if you want to have regular success in BC, you're gonna need to incorporate some type of mechanical advantage.
Do a lot of people have boats? Like use jet boats and stuff to get access to places, or is it more like ATVs and horses, or
There's
planes?
a pretty high proportion. Like it's not uncommon for a dude to own a jet boat, and he'll use it somewhat recreationally. But like dudes are buying $80,000 boats to go hunting once a year. Like not uncommon. Yep. And that would be a cheap jet boat. Like you can dump a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
The new thing is these like strikers. You get these inflatable jet boats that you dump a jet engine
That's
on
what
the
we used in
on the-
Alaska.
yeah, they're phenomenal.
They're pretty
and
dope.
I don't want to say they're affordable,
Yeah,
but
they're
you can
still-
be in there for like 30K. You can get something that will get it done. My buddy, shout out to Adam Sarich, 4 Point Outdoors on Instagram. He used one of those to go in and get his sheep last year. And once he got the boat as far as he could, and then he had to hike 39 kilometers to where he finally killed his sheep.
Wow.
Yeah, killed his sheep,
That's
turned around
awesome.
and hiked 39 kilometers back to the boat. So that's BC. That's what you got. You want to
Yeah.
kill a sheep? That's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And then a flight is probably $5,000 Canadian. And then at the lakes, like I remember getting flown out one year, and I was going to another lake. But I remember getting out of the lake and there was like 3 different groups of guys. 9 guys get off the same lake. So you telling me I wait all year for my badass backcountry solo sheep hunt, and like 8 dudes hop out at the same lake, and you're just hoping you walk in different directions? Like, yeah. So that's another complicating factor.
So you're doing guiding now.
Yes.
How does somebody come hunt with you? And how does an American come hunt? What's required if they want to hunt Canada?
So first of all, let's talk about like why I started outfitting. And I think it goes into a lot of exactly what we just discussed. I think you go back 15, 20 years, there was guys that did guided hunts and guys that didn't. And these didn't tend to be a lot of the same people. And it usually was geographical. Like if you lived out west, you could probably do it yourself. And if you didn't, you hired guides. Now, I think we have this adult onset hunter, kind of like myself, who got into it late 30s, early 40s, has a couple kids, probably has some disposable income. He wants to be a DIY backcountry hunter, but he wants some shortcuts.
Sure.
And he's got a bit of cash to make that happen. These guys are booking guided hunts under the assumption that I'm going to go hunt with a guide for a week or 2, and then I'm going to learn some stuff. And I know that because that's exactly what I did. And the problem is that is not the expectation that most guides have. They're not teachers, they're not coaches. And I don't blame them for this. That's not your business. Your business is try to go out and get people to have a successful hunt. And so when I noticed, I was really disappointed with that experience. Again, no, it was just more like mismatched expectations. I wanted something they weren't offering. I think guys like what you help out with that Lampers does, like these immersion camps are great, but there's no replacement for like hunting. Let's talk about what we're going to do, and then let's go do it. Let's see what the animal does, and then we can adapt on the fly. And so I noticed I was really disappointed with the experiences I was having because of the podcast and YouTube channel. I was getting a lot of feedback that other people were having the same experience. And I wanted to do this stuff in BC, but because you can't hunt BC as a non-resident, there was no way for me to say to guys from the States, like, come on, it's not like Idaho where we could just go grab some over-the-counter tags and I'll just run a hunt for the weekend and show you some stuff about being in the backcountry. And so I started thinking about guiding, and the reason bear leapt out, it takes place in the spring. It's the most affordable guided hunt you can do. In BC, it's got a really high likelihood of success. The hours are very, favorable. Like, it's not something you have to be doing at dawn. Evenings are definitely a more productive time for bears. And so the way guiding works in British Columbia is that you buy a territory. And then within that territory, you have exclusive guiding rights. And you will have a combination of animals with quotas and animals without quotas. So for any over-the-counter animals in your territory, it's at your discretion. So because black bears are over-the-counter, technically I can sell as many black bear hunts as I want.
As you wanted.
Obviously, I wouldn't do that, but I could. Same thing as my mule deer. I've got spike moose. I can do cougars, wolves, all kinds of stuff. Then you have quoted animals. And that would be like you're going to get, so I get currently 8 goat tags every 5 years. And that means kills, not hunts. So
8 goat tags every 5 years.
And no matter what happens at the end of that 5 years, it resets.
You get them all the same year? Or you get
You're
8
supposed to, you
spaced out
should
over
not
5
kill
years?
more than 2 a year.
Okay.
So now there are accidents happen and you can like fix it up the following year. But as a general rule, you should not be killing more than
8.
two. And that's just in mind. Everybody else is going to have different like rules and restrictions. And so when you buy a territory, you're buying the right to like hunt all of those different animals. And so the other thing, when I first kind of looked at adding black bear as an option so people could come up and do those mountain hunts, you then got to find an area, because
Is there like a map that you could like say look at that says, oh, these are all the like territories that are already purchased? Like,
so again, because it's BC, there's not like a great organization of data. There's a KML you can load up in Google Earth that has everybody's territory. And when you click on it, it will give you the ownership name of everybody. But it could be like a corporate number. It could be somebody's sister. And you can't always line it up with an actual outfitter. And then there's one realtor in the province who tends to handle all of the territory sales. Like, they're known for it. So you can normally go to this one realtor's website and they'll have 6 or 7 territories up for sale. The other benefit is you have to be a BC resident in order to buy one.
Gotcha.
That changed a few years ago. You used to be able to be an American and buy one and then have a Canadian outfit. You can't do that. You can't do that anymore.
How many years do you buy it for?
It's yours.
Oh, it's yours. Bought and sold. Bought and paid for.
Okay. Now, the one thing I did is that I only bought 75% from the current outfitter. I also own archery mule deer tags in Alberta, which is a completely different situation. In Alberta, you buy tags. So I own 4 tags in perpetuity, which means I can sell 4 archery mule deer hunts in Alberta every year. Whether or not those guys kill doesn't matter. Take 4 guys, 0 success, 4 tags gone. All 4 kill, 4 tags gone. You get the same 4 next year. I bought those hunts from an outfitter, and anytime you buy businesses from people, there's always this like, I'll make sure you get off your feet and everything will be all right. And then does that always happen? Not necessarily. So when I went to buy an entire territory, I was like, I like some engagement from the current outfitter. Like 3,000 square kilometers is a lot of country to get to know. There's also a lot of legal stuff of being an outfitter. Like, I'm comfortable guiding, but like the paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And he still wanted to do some bear hunts in the area. So we got to talking. We're like, oh, this will be perfect, man. I'll buy 75. You do 25. I'll kind of have access to you to help like mentor me through this process. And then you're still going to be there in the spring. So we'll set up 2 camps so we can bounce ideas off each other and move around and tell each other what we see. And he turned out to be a super awesome guy. And that was listed on this website that I'm talking about. And it was like, I really wanted some type of mountain animal, and getting an area with sheep tags is like, you're talking millions, like multiple millions of dollars to buy one of these territories. And then you're going to need to have cabins. You're going to need to have horses. Like, the capital expenditure to get into one of these operations is massive. And so I needed something that was like more manageable and on a smaller scale. And this one fit perfectly. Lots of road access, but still tons of alpine, so we can spike out, had the goat tags. And so back to your initial question, the only way a non-resident can hunt BC is with a guide. Now, a Canadian resident can come, but they have to be hosted. So like I can't even go hunt another province by myself in Canada. I literally have to have a resident of that province host me.
You can't hunt Alberta?
Nope. Not by myself.
Saskatchewan?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
That's wild.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it's, yeah. It's crazy.
You can't run over to Alberta and hunt whitetail or mule deer.
As long as my buddy hosts me, I can, but not by myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we had to do that in all the states?
See, I think that's
No, I
why
don't even wanna
Canadians
float
find it
it.
so difficult to believe they can come down here.
Yeah, I don't even wanna
because they
float
can't even
that.
go over there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
something they would instantly
that's
try to do
wild.
here. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't want to float that even because
Yeah.
that would be a real bummer.
That would be a real bummer.
Redact that whole section right there.
Yeah.
States don't get those ideas.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so the only way that especially a U.S. resident can come up is on a guided hunt. But as far as the nice thing about Canada, and we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, so there's a lot of CITES restrictions with animals. So like if you go to Alaska and you kill a goat, you got to leave it behind. There's a broker. There's a lot of extra fees. With the majority of our animals, were you allowed to bring your sheep home? Or did it have to stay for a broker?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You had to have a CITES permit.
Okay, goats don't. So for example, you can come on a goat hunt with me. It needs a compulsory inspection, but you just need a certified inspector. So like my taxidermist, for example, is a certified inspector. So you come to my area, we go kill a goat. Sunday afternoon, we just drive past his house. He looks at it, measures it, gives it the okay. You get on your plane with your horns, your frozen hide, you fly home and you get your own. And the same thing with bear. You can drive home with your meat. I fill out a little piece of paper for you. You have your tag in your pocket. I freeze your hide before you leave. You drive home with your hide and skull. You drive home with your meat. So that was the other reason that bear and guiding and all that kind of stuff was so
attractive to you.
100%. Yeah. And so that was the whole kind of genesis of the idea, was to get guys to come in. Obviously, it's still a hunt. Our priority is to kill. The outfitter last year on black bear went 13 for 13. I'm not going to guarantee anybody anything, but I will have failed pretty significantly if somebody who comes and hunt with me this year doesn't go home with a black bear. Like the goal is to kill. There's no doubt about that. However, I got a 6-day hunt.
Yeah.
If the goal is just to kill, we could probably go do that on day 2.
Sure.
So like, let's chill out. Let's take our time. And all these guys I'm having conversations with beforehand. Like, what's the goal? What are weaknesses? Like, what are we working on? Is food a thing? I spend a lot of time in nutrition. Do you want to do your own food list? Pass it by me. I'll give you feedback. Is gear a problem? Send me your gear list. I'll give you my feedback. You can borrow from me whatever you don't have. Like maybe, sat nav or navigation is like your weakness. Okay, I'll train you how to read maps. I was an engineer for 15 years. I built maps. And so each hunt, and this is also what I think is missing in the outfitting industry. And I get it. If you're a big outfit, like look at Dustin with Backcountry BC and beyond, and now the one up at Caesars Lake. He has so much content out, and everybody knows that hunt so well. You know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Same thing with where you went. Yeah. Like those guys are so big and they've been doing it for so long, and the price tag is at such a limit that there's a very clear set of expectations. With these like middle of the road hunts, like talk to guys who were going to Colorado on these $5-6 grand elk hunts. How many of them got what they were expecting to get? How many of them thought they were going to be backpacking and doing cool shit, and they ended up sitting in a wall tent and just bugling off roads all day?
From the wall tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Right. And so my goal was like, okay, let's align expectations and let's build the hunt within my ability to do so around what you're looking for in the hunt. So it's more about delivering an experience than just selling a hunt.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would say that's highly missing in the outfitter world.
For sure. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air to actually hear
absolutely.
that.
Yeah. And I think it's just because I came at it from the other side.
Right. Yeah.
Like I think a lot of the outfitting industry is very successional. Like these guys have been doing this for years. Like I've had Clay Lancaster on the podcast before. I would kind of call him an acquaintance, and I would hope to call him a friend. I mean, those guys have been guiding for so long, and those are some of the greatest guides and outfitters in the industry. But do a lot of those guys remember what it was like to be a hunter booking a hunt? You know what I mean? Not really. Where that's very fresh in my mind. So that was kind of the purpose around building it.
Yeah. Before I switch topics, I want to talk gear. I want to talk your channel. I want to run through some gear questions. I wanted to ask you, so where are you at as far as like booking hunts? Can somebody book a hunt? If so, when, how
Sure.
far out are you booked? And it sounds to me like you're looking And I think it's awesome. I hope this is the case. I think you're looking for a certain type of individual to book with you.
Yep.
You're not looking for somebody that just wants to come out and be handheld and, you know, you're going to park them in front of a bear and they're going to shoot it, right? You're looking for an individual that wants to make this a lifestyle and learn and grow with it. So how can somebody book with you, and how far out are you booked?
So Jay@mindfulhunter.com for any questions about outfitting or anything else that we talk about on the podcast. I'm super easy to get a hold of, or you can DM me on Instagram, mindful_hunter. So as far as this year, I still have 2 spots left available for bear, May 4th and June 8th. I can fit guys in. Mule deer I have open this year. I'm only taking 2 mule deer hunters. The outfitter hasn't hunted this area for mule deer since he bought the area in 2017. There's great deer populations in there, but he owns a second territory up north.
Yeah, a little light bulb went off there.
Yeah. He owns a second territory up north where he does moose and goat. So that was one of the reasons he wanted to sell it, is that this territory was heavily underutilized. So again, because I want to focus on quality of experience, they're going to be one-on-one backpack alpine mule deer hunts, and we're going to take 6 days. And because I'm only taking 2 guys, I have I feel very confident we'll get done what we need to get done. And then technically my goat tag is gone for this year, but there's not a signed contract. So if somebody is interested, get a hold of me and you can go on a waiting list for that. But then as a general rule, black bear will be May and June, and I'm probably like 40% booked for next year. So there's lots of time for that. And then mule deer and goat are in the fall. I'm going to be targeting early September for my goat hunts because the weather gets pretty brutal, pretty fast. And we're literally up on top of a glacier. So we're hiking. I've got these 2 lakes we got to cross, and I've got canoes stashed at each lake. So you're literally hiking in, getting in a canoe, canoeing across the lake, getting out, getting in a second canoe, canoeing across a second lake, and then hiking all the way up into the Alpine, traversing across a glacier, and then that's where we get into. There's no resident goat tags in my area, and the outfitter hasn't hunted goats in there since 2019.
Sounds awesome.
Dude, I'm so fired up, bro. Like I don't want to say I don't care who books, but I think I'm more excited. Like, I'm going in July to open that trail back up because nobody's been in there in 5 years. And I'm going up in the Alpine. I'm going to get some of the pictures. And I do have, you asked about counts. I've got a 2016 count of the area. Oh, nice. And so it's very favorable.
It sounds like an incredible go hunt.
Yeah. And that's what drew me to
up our alley.
Sounds so sick.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, my area is 3.5 hours from YVR. So this is not fly to Prince George or fly to Fort Nelson or drive 8 hours and 8 little puddle hoppers. You literally fly into Vancouver, BC. I pick you up at the airport. 3.5 hours later, we're in my unit and we start to hike. So it cuts down a lot on the travel time. And the other thing I'll mention, for this year for bear, on those last 2 weeks that are open, I'm offering a discount. And again, I want the right guy. I'm not looking for guys that just got a bunch of money. I'm looking for guys who want to get after it. I recognize it's my first year in this area, and I think people should be rewarded for being some of the first to come up. So I'm making it as reasonable as I can. And both those weeks are completely open. So if 2 dudes want to come together, I can sharpen the pencil even more on that. I'm not looking to get rich off this. It's more about building something that like creates legacy and creates experiences.
Sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome.
The canoe go hunt sounds like
traversing glacier over across.
Oh man,
awesome.
Also, I got a bunch of pictures. They did a flyover a couple years ago. I'll show you guys when we're done. It's nutty.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I want to talk about your YouTube channel. I want to talk about gear. I want to talk gear reviews. I did have a question. Why Mindful Hunter? Where did that come from?
Yeah, really. I'm gonna have to give my mother-in-law a lot of credit here. So when I started Mindful Hunter out of a passion to create stuff. So I was a forestry engineer for 15 years, and then I went and did my MBA, and then I was a business consultant for 7 years before I quit that to do what I'm doing now full time. So I had a very successful career. You know what I mean? Things were going very well. I didn't start reviewing gear to get free binoculars or any of the rest of it. I originally just wanted to film my hunts. So I remember when I killed my first backcountry blacktail, and it wasn't even that bad. I was like an hour and a half outside of a suburb of Vancouver, but I hiked in 5 miles. I killed a deer by myself. I called it in, with those little primos.
Yeah.
Came in on a rope, man. Shot it at 75 yards with my rifle. Didn't even debone it. You know what I mean? Didn't even take the hide off the hook. Like just total newbie stuff. And I hiked it out and it was like, thought I was going to die, like right through the mountains. And the next day, I was actually back in my MBA course the next day because we went every other Friday and Saturday. And I'm trying to tell people in the class, like, what just happened. And it's like, I'm failing. And I'm a fairly articulate guy. And I wasn't able to convey like the intensity and like how amazing everything was. And back then, like solo hunter with Remy and Tim was really big. And I was like, oh, I can do that. Like, and that is what I need to tell this story. And my daughter was just being born, and I wanted a way to show her, like, dad did cool stuff at some point in his life before he was dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's all Mindful Hunter was about. But I came from this background of like branding and business and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, well, I need some kind of name, and I got to start an Instagram account. And originally it was like Modern Hunter. But I've always had this fascination with like the Renaissance man, like the guy who could build a log cabin, but write poetry and kill the elk, but then cook the meal. And like just that, like the contrast, the dichotomy of those two worlds. And I was trying to come up with a name that like brought those two into convergence. And so I came up with Modern Hunter, but I knew in my mind, I'm like, this is not
feel right.
Yeah. And then we're sitting around the dinner table one night, and my mother-in-law turns to me. And she's like, it's Mindful Hunter. And I was just like, bam.
Yeah, done.
That's it.
Done. We're done. And so that's how Mindful. And that really is, it's like, when it comes to business, the first question you always got to ask yourself is, what's your competitive advantage? Like, what can you do better than any of your competition? And how can you ensure that you keep that? I know what my competitive advantage is. I'm not a body stacker. Not a Lampers, I'm not a Warren. Like, I'm never going to be one of those guys. I got into the game too late, started too far behind the 8 ball, and I'm fine with that. What I can do is communicate how hunting impacted me, and I have the ability to speak to an audience that I don't think a lot of other people are speaking to particularly well. So that's what I double down on. And then we're going to get into the gear thing. I don't, and I'll be arrogant about it, I don't think there's anybody else who is doing the depth of reviews that I do with the objectiveness and the level of detail. And again, that's just about being mindful and thoughtful. When I was a business consultant, my specialty was behavioral insights and behavioral strategy. So like behavioral economics, biases, loss aversion, all that kind of stuff. So when I got into reviews, like I was the guy who designed customer experience journeys for Lululemon, Arc'teryx, Adidas. I understand consumer psychology and like why people buy things. And I know what the companies are doing to create those emotional tugs to make you feel like you need to buy a product. So I felt like I had a better than average ability to like cut through that.
Yeah, look
and be like, what do we really want to know here? Like, what's really important about this product, and what are the types of things that actually matter to you that you should be concerned about when you go to buy this product? And that just kind of fell into that whole mindful approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you do have a unique approach. Very, middle of the road. Like, you try not to bring by, I would assume you try. It's hard though, right?
Yeah.
Do you struggle with that? That's one of the questions I had for you was like, when everybody has personal bias, and then obviously the deeper you get into it, the more relationships you make with companies and people and product. And it's really hard not to bring bias into it, right? So how do you deal with that? What's your approach to it?
So I'm not perfect. I remember, I'm not a fan of Vortex. I think they have some good products. I don't like the way they market them because they don't tell the truth in their marketing. Like, it's not the finest crafted optical product on the market. Why are we saying it is? Like, everybody knows it's not. Why not just say it is what it is? Because I think you have a phenomenal product if you honestly market it in the category that it's supposed to be in. And I let that get to me for a while. And I went through this kind of period where like I wouldn't look at their stuff, and somebody called me out on it. And it's like, well, for the guy who's supposed to not have a bias, you're looking pretty biased to me. And I was like, oh shit.
It's hard.
Real hard. And so, and it happens the opposite, like Brad Books from Argali, great guy, good friend, love his products. I'm already dreading the day he sends something for review and it sucks. Now, he has a pretty good design ethos, and like things tend to be pretty good that come out of that camp. So it's like that one almost worries me more. And I've almost stopped, because what used to happen when you first started is like you'd reach out almost like with friendship, like, hey, I do this thing, I got this channel, can I focus some of your product? But then you're like, oh right, what if I end up saying this thing is a piece of crap?
Yeah.
That's one of the other major challenges with my channel, is that why would a brand want to send me stuff?
Yeah.
I might say it sucks. That was a big learning for me too. I used to be pretty like outlandish and you know do things for clicks, and if something wasn't good, I would like really go. Then what's funny is you start developing some relationships with brands and you start talking about the engineers who are behind products. And I've heard actors say the same thing about movies. Nobody woke up this morning and thought, let's design a piece of crap. Like everybody who actually tried to create that product was trying their best. There could be budgetary limitations. There could be all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes that you don't know about, and it didn't hit the mark that it was trying to hit. So I've really tried, and actually my channel has done much better since then, because brands, there's a very interesting response to discounting that comes into play when we look at gear reviews. So I had to do this project one time for a bank because they were pairing up with an insurance company and they were going to offer a discount on this package. And they wanted to pair an element of cause marketing. Cause marketing in our world would be like 2% for conservation with a discount, but they didn't know how much to discount. So our process was to get peer-reviewed academic research on behavioral insights and then apply that to consumer psychology. So I can give you not my opinion of what discount works, but like academic research to prove which discount is going to create the highest likelihood for purchase. And there's an inverted U with discounting. So at some point, the higher the discount gets, the greater the likelihood of purchase. Then you go over the top. And when you start discounting too much, the likelihood to purchase drops off. Sitka just cut themselves off at the knees the last 2 years because this super high quality brand with great brand equity that never puts up on sale, all of a sudden you start seeing it for 40 to 50% off. And that creates skepticism and doubt. It's like, well, what's it? If you can give me 50% off of this thing and still make money, what is this actually worth? Plus, why would I ever buy something at retail? I'm just gonna wait around till it's 50% off. The same thing happens with gear reviews. And I could name a bunch of names, and it's not like I care about naming a bunch of names, but when somebody comes out and says this game changer scope and then tells you everything that's perfect about it, you actually create more doubt than confidence, because there's got to be something that's wrong with it. So what I have found is that when I analytically outline the positives and the negatives and let the end user decide for themselves, well, are those negatives deal breakers for me? No, I can handle those. Like, look, I just did a Maven review on their S3 67mm spotting scope, which I think for under $2,000 is the best spotting scope you can buy right now. Now it's 10 ounces heavier than the ATS 65, but it's $1,200 less. So are you at a point in your hunting career where 12 ounce or 10 ounces is more important than $1,200? Then buy this scope. You're going to get a functionally significant optical experience, but you're going to trade off money for weight. And I found that people, when you were honest with them about some of the quirks with products, you actually created more confidence and they were more likely to buy. And then more brands. SIG has been a great example. SIG impresses me to no end. So I did a range finding binocular review. I included the discontinued SIG 3Ks and the first gen SIG 10Ks and ripped them apart. Like the 3Ks were just not good. And the original 10Ks had this blue tint that made them practically unusable. Other than that, the 10Ks for all the rest got second place. The Revic Acuras from Gunworks got first place. And Troy reached out after the review. And he's like, you gave us a good one on that review. And I'm like, I mean, listen, man, it is what it is. And he goes, listen, man, if you're going to rip us apart, I just want you ripping apart the most recent stuff. Like, give us a fair shake. So from now on, when you want to look at something, you send me a text, I'll send you the product, then you can talk with the engineer, and then you can go and do your review. And I've looked at a handful of SIG products since then. And I don't know why other brands don't learn. Like, I'm not looking to throw you under the bus. Like, getting stuff from Loophole, impossible. Getting stuff from Kuyu, impossible. Like, they won't engage unless there is a certain degree of confidence that what you say is going to be positive.
Yeah, they want a favorable.
They want to guarantee it. And I don't have a single piece of paper other than an NDA with SIG, because I'm this reviewer who just ripped them apart. And Troy's like, I want to sign an NDA so I can tell you what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And I was like, done.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's nothing other than like a verbal agreement. You know, I don't owe them anything. I don't have to do anything for them. But they have the confidence in their gear, and they'll give me access to the engineers. So when I encounter something that's off, in fact, he just sent me a text the other day because I did my updated review of the 2nd gen 10Ks, which are now, if you're looking for range finding binoculars, I think the SIG 10K version 2, best on the market, hands down. Optically, power of the rangefinder, accuracy, user interface, everything. They knocked it out of the park. On the website, it says IPX4 waterproof. I thought that was a little underpowered. I think IPX7 should be the base for waterproofness of anything in the hunting industry. He texted me 2 days later and he goes, because of your review, we realized it was wrong. They just used some of the collateral from the first gens on the website. And so they had to go back and update the website. It was actually IPX7.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But the bias thing is tough. And I think it's almost tougher in a positive way.
Yeah.
Like when you get to know people and you're like, ugh. What happens now when the little guys who like just came out with a bino harness or just came out with something, they send it, I just call them afterwards and I'm like, you don't want me doing this review right now. I'll spend a half an hour on you. I'll tell you why you don't want me doing this review. Go back to the drawing board and you're more than welcome to send me version 2. But like, you're not big enough that a bunch of people are running out buying this thing anyways.
Sure.
And me doing some clickbaity review, trashing your new product isn't going to help anybody.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would think, and you would think anyway, that most companies would welcome, you know, the straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, reality is we have product. We're going to send you home with some, right? So we've got atmosphere jacket. We've got some base layers and things that we're going to send you home with. You know, I've seen some threads on rock slides, you know, people saying, hey, it's maybe too long. The sleeves are too long for me. I personally didn't think so. I like the way it fits. But it is interesting when you shoot a product out into the world. Yeah. And you let a bunch of people look at it, you know, you really start to see what comes back. But like objectively, I'm looking for an objective opinion on it. Yeah. Otherwise, why the hell am I creating it, right? Like, why are we spending our wills and doing all the shit that, you know, we're doing here? If we're sending out a product into the world, it's like not the best. It's just not working for people.
Yeah. Well, and how do you get better?
Yeah, how do you get better?
So for the first time, I just released my own product. So I released my own boxers back in February.
I saw that. I watched all that stuff.
Thank you.
He saw you in your boxers.
That's what I mean.
I wanted to call it out. I just don't want to skip over.
Yeah. I mean, I was a nude model for 2 years in university, so let's just be grateful that we limited it for just boxers. Yeah, it's like I'm Forrest Gump.
That's the next podcast.
Yeah. So everybody always said to me, like, when are you coming out with your own product? Because all you do is rip apart everybody else's, so you must know what's better. And my answer was always, when I can offer a significant contribution to a category that doesn't currently exist. I don't want to white label some piece of garbage and just throw my brand on it to have another piece of merch. But like boxers were one of these things that like I could not find one I liked. 3 years ago, I found these Lulus that were perfect, loved them, did a big review. Year later, go to re-up, and they changed the fabric. Probably just came from a new mill, and they all fell apart within 3 weeks. I was right back at ground zero. So this year, we don't have to do like a deep dive, but basically, I went through the entire design process from scratch, my own fabrication, built these boxers, and we were talking about beforehand, I can only get so far with a small sample set of data as far as fit, function, feel, all that kind of stuff. And at some point, you got to let them loose into the ether and go, okay, here we go. Yep. And one of the major learnings that came back for me is that people wanted a second long version. Like the feedback has been unequivocally positive. Like blew my mind. I was actually bringing boxers for all of you and I'm completely sold out. For anybody listening, they're coming on Monday, so feel free to go to the site. They will be back in stock. And I'm going to ship you guys down some because, again, I love the approach to apparel. You're taking a hunter's approach. We don't need to name names, but there's lots of other apparel companies right now that don't even have hunters designing their gear. And so, like, let's have the dudes who wear this stuff design this stuff. But I put this stuff out, and we were talking before the podcast, me and Lorenzo, both lifters, big quads. And so the length the boxers were perfect for me. But then when a tall, skinny guy puts them on, they weren't grabbing the quads well enough for some of them. And so people were asking, can you do a second, longer version? I was like, 100% I can. So it'll be 6 to 9 months before I get all the feedback, and I'm going to wait. But you just can't learn that stuff until you put things out into the field and be open to criticism and feedback.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like we thought I think still to this day, we nailed the length of the torso and the sleeve length.
Yeah.
Because we tried it on so many different
And I bet
people.
you I will agree with you because I have chimpanzee arms.
So do I. But we've tried it. I have a long torso. We've tried it on shorter torsos. It's all good. But then you put it out there in the ether and you get like, oh, it's too long.
Yeah.
Like,
Too
man, we
long,
focused.
but then again, though, we designed it long because when you sit down and it's snowing out, you don't want stuff going up. So
Like-
they might also not understand the real purpose.
That's why I want to
it's
reach
long in
out.
some
I want to
areas.
reach out and be like, do you wear like Metro cut shirts? Like, are you the guy that likes to show your belt buckle? Because if so, then yes, it is going to be too long.
Yeah.
And I am not going to make a jacket that shows a belt buckle. It's just not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It's not functional for hunting. So I really want to know, like, how long was it on you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so,
like,
it's,
I want
it's
to reach
really,
out and be
it's
like,
really
wait,
interesting.
what?
Yeah, for sure. This has been an interesting venture.
Have you guys talked to anybody? Because I started calling people.
Yeah, we reach out.
I guess
as much as
online.
we
You
can.
guys must have people reach out to you because I would notice. I noticed one dude logged into the site, or he bought some boxers, and then like a week after they got delivered, he bought a different size. And I was like, okay, something went wrong. So I called them so I could source out, like, was there something wrong with my sizing chart? Like, is there anything I could do on my end to do better? And I'm just about to put together a survey that I'm going to send to all the people who bought the boxers to start trying to gather data for the improvements in version 2.
We gather as much data as possible.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is how many people will say something but then not want to converse with you about it. It's like, well, then why'd you say it? Like, now I want to hear
some
what you
people
have
just
to
want to
say.
be critical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other side,
That's the currency of the day and age.
right? Just talk shit, negative, then nothing in return.
Yeah, when our email and phone number is listed, you can just call us, ask the question.
Or even
could
when
walk
we
you
reach
through
out, be like, hey, we would really like to understand why this is too long on you. You know, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to ask you a question I get asked all the time, and I think it's worthwhile for a guy that really dives deep and spends a lot of time and effort in gear. So where do you suggest that people spend money in gear, and where can they save a buck?
Boots and pack.
Spend money?
Spend money on boots and pack.
Okay.
With them it's not debatable, especially in hunting. So here's what I like to tell people. There are comparable industries that have been doing 90% of what we do for decades longer than we've been doing it, and they're significantly better at it. Mostly mountaineering related companies. So when it comes to things like apparel, shelters, even boots, you can go outside of the hunting industry. But there are a lot of other places where you can save money because there's greater competition. Competition equals a reduction in price. And in the hunting space, like if you're only going to buy apparel, there's really only like 4 or 5 big places where you're going to buy it from. So those guys can charge really elevated rates. One of the questions I get asked is how do I save money? I'm like, well, go to REI for a sale. As long as you're not buying like neon pink or purple mountaineering pants, like you can get a pair of pants for $75 that will do everything that 95% of hunting pants will do, because those mountaineers need the same thing out of pants that hunters do. Packs are not that case. If you look at a thru hiker, they're never getting over 40 pounds. And so most hiking backpacks are not engineered to do a 120 pound pack out. They just aren't. They don't have meat shelves. And so
You don't want to put a Gregory on?
yeah.
An Osprey.
Yeah. So packs I think have to come from a hunting related company, and they're going to be expensive. It's not going to stop you from killing. So just because you don't have a Kafaru or an Exo, take whatever you got and go hunting for sure. But it should be one of the first, when you do have money, it should be probably the first expensive thing that you buy.
Yeah. It's not going to keep you from killing, but it's definitely going to ruin your day if you do kill.
Yes.
And you don't have the right
100%.
Like that's a trip ruiner right there.
And it's kind of isolated from the rest of your system. I like to have an integrated approach. So when somebody says, what tent should I have? I'm like, well, I don't know, man. What sleeping pad do you have? What sleeping bag do you have? What season are we going hunting? What animals are you hunting? How many people do you hunt with? Well, like a pack, it's much more an independent choice. And I tend to err on the bigger side. I'm from BC, so I just buy the biggest pack every time. And if you look at the weights, if you can only afford one pack, just get the expedition pack.
That's how
what
I
I was
Only
trying
going to
to
be
tell.
3 or 4 ounces heavier. You can strap it all the way down, and you're never going to be in a situation where like, I wish I had the bigger one.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's if you're really trying to cut weight just on the cubic size of the pack,
Yeah.
like dude, there's so many better ways to cut weight.
100%.
Don't cut it there.
Treadmill's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. But like, there's so many better ways. If that's really this one weighs 8 ounces more, 12 ounces. Okay, well, you could save it in other ways. I guarantee it.
I also don't think you should save weight on a pack. In my experience, 6 pounds is a critical mass. I ran the Stone Glacier Terminus. I think for what it is, it's great. When it gets over 80 pounds, it falls apart for me. And I carry over 80 pounds a lot. And so that's just not going to work for me for a full-time pack. And if you're only going to own one, don't do any of this ultralight stuff. Stay north of 6 pounds, get an expedition pack, and you're going to pay for it. But I think it's worth it.
Back in the day when we were weight chasers, hunting went through a time there where everyone was just chasing weight every way possible.
Everything does. I mean, you look at arrows right now.
Everyone's chasing
The
weight.
2 hottest arrows on the market right now are super lightweight 5mm arrows, where I'm talking to guys every single day now that are building arrows to go elk hunting that are 410, 400 grains. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I shot a bull 20 years ago with a 400 grain arrow. We chased speed, but and there for a hot minute, we were all chasing 550 grain arrows,
It's just weird.
It ebbs and flows, and I don't exactly know why, but yeah, you're right. Same thing with gear. We
chased it for a while, but there was starting to be, I had one on Brady and I's backcountry hunt where it was too light. Couldn't handle the load.
Yep.
And I dealt with it coming out of the mountain, and it was not fun.
Yep.
A lot of things were broke on the pack, and obviously a broken pack doesn't run very well.
No.
So I just had Kenneth from Kafaru on my podcast a few days ago, and I asked him the question and pushed him a little bit, and I said, because I've always said this, and I've told people this, I don't care what the pack is. If it's got 100 pounds in it, it's not comfortable. I just don't think 100 pounds on my back. Now, I've had packs that have ripped and torn apart, and I've had frames break, and that's a non-negotiable for me. Like, that definitely can't happen because I have to pack the thing out, right?
Yeah.
What's your thought on that? If you get 100 pounds in a backpack, are there packs, in your opinion, that are more comfortable?
Oh, 100%. Okay. Yeah.
You got to start deadlifting and squatting, Trail. Just kidding.
I mean, I've known this my entire life. Whether I'm going to do it or not is an entire different conversation. But
I don't think you could say they are comfortable. Yeah. Like, anytime you put 100 pounds on your back, it is going to be uncomfortable.
You're going to want to get it off as soon as
kind of
possible.
But you can greatly reduce the level of discomfort for sure. Like, one of the big things that put me on the map was the original backpack review. I got sick and tired of all this sponsored nonsense that everybody's trying to pretend they aren't paid to say. And I just went out and bought the 5 big packs: KUIU, Mystery Ranch, Stone Glacier, Kafaru, and EXO. Cash out of my own pocket, and did 4 hours, 2-part series on YouTube, just completely analyzing those packs to death. And I can tell you unequivocally, 2 of those, the Kafaru and the EXO, carried north of 100 pounds, way better than anything else. Also a function of body type. I tell guys, if you're skinny and lean, a Stone Glacier is going to fit you better. If you're thick and stockier, a Kafaru or an EXO is going to fit you better. Like, they're just functionally built different. I get hammered with questions about the initial ascent, and ever since Kafaru dropped the arc, I'm getting hammered with questions about those.
Yep.
And so my next big pack review, because I was very anti-carbon frame. I was not a fan of the KUIU packs. I know so many guides who broke frames, broke buckles, like, brutal. I think KUIU builds some amazing things. Don't think packs are on that list. And so I was always just naturally predisposed to be against carbon frame packs, because all of the carbon frame packs I had seen were bad. But then Initial Ascent came on the scene, and like some people I legitimately trust were like, no, these things are legit. And then Kafaru dropped the arc, and people were like, no, this thing is legit. So now the question is, okay, well, who's the baddest guy in town? If we can do a full carbon frame, which carbon frame is the best? And from what I think Initial Ascent is going to be another one of those big load carriers that does well. But further to your point, what people need to recognize, There's going to be packs that feel better at 40 pounds. So there's no free lunch.
Yep.
If your pack feels better at 100, it's going to feel worse at 40 because the padding is going to be thicker. Where the straps ride are going to be different. Like it's like suspension in a truck. You can't have an F-350 diesel and a Ferrari in the same vehicle. You got to pick which one you want.
You can't have a Raptor suspension and a diesel motor pulling a trailer. You can't do it.
100%. 100%.
It's just not, you can't have both sides.
So that's where I always tell people there's no perfect piece of gear. And the more you try and get one thing to do everything, the less it's going to do any individual thing well. Like you want a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Problem is, budgets don't lend themselves to scalpels. They lend themselves to sledgehammers.
Yep.
And for me, functionally, a little bit of discomfort at 40 pounds is better than a pack that, tears me apart at 110 pounds.
Yeah.
So I opt for the ones that feel a little bit better. Also, I'm a bigger dude. I walk around 6'1", 230. Like I can put 120 pounds on my back and walk 10 miles. Done it multiple times. If you're not that guy and you're going to get up to 90 and be like, hey, that's my limit. You know what? I'm going to make 2 trips.
Yeah, it's
then what you're looking for in a pack is different than what I'm looking for.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time too. I was actually happy to hear you say that. Stone Glacier is a great pack.
Yeah.
But it's built for a Brady and a trail. It is
Look
not
at
built,
Kurt.
It's not
We
built
talked
for me.
about this before. Look at the designer and you will see who should fit the gear for the most part. Like you can look across, like look at when Snyder was designing Kafaru. Like if you look at the guys who are behind, look at you guys are getting flack for long sleeves. Like
Look at us.
You
though.
can't have
all
it.
of us are.
You can't. It's going to impact the products that you make.
I think it's a great pack. It's just I cannot use it. It doesn't fit me.
Yeah, I
can't
wanted
use
to.
it.
When I did that pack review, we said
tried.
not to have biases. In the back of my mind, it's a sexy pack. Their branding was great at the time. It's like there's this tribe. And I was just like, can't do it, man. Just does not work for
And
me.
I loved the guys there.
Yep.
Like when they were there, Jeff and Lyle, I loved when those guys were there.
Yep.
And I wanted to wear it, but
Yeah.
I couldn't. I
Yeah.
just couldn't do it.
Same boat. Same boat.
Yeah.
Did not fit me.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite pieces of gear? Like I feel like we would short our audience if I didn't. We got the gear guy.
Yeah.
The GOHUNT atmosphere jacket, GOHUNT basic merinos.
What are some of your favorite pieces?
So as far as apparel goes, and people are going to hate me for this because it's discontinued, it's the original Sitka Ambient hoodie. We were talking about this beforehand. I think it's as close to a perfect piece of gear. I think the issue with Sitka is that they lost a little bit of their minimalist approach to gear design. Again, when we go back to talking scalpels, like my favorite puffy in the world is the Grumman Puffy. And we haven't, by Stone Glacier, and we haven't even had like a synthetic versus down discussion. And I'm actually err on the synthetic side because of where I live.
Yep.
And we can talk about the ability of a sleep system to dry you overnight and a whole bunch of stuff. But when it comes to like a down puffy, I think the Stone Glacier Grumman is the best on the market.
We agree.
Because it only does one thing. You're not going to wear it through the brush.
Yeah,
it has
you're definitely
zero weather resistance. Like it is like a piece of china. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But if you're looking for the lightest, warmest, most packable layer that you're going to take in the backcountry, it's the best, hands down.
Yeah, we agree with that.
And the Sitka Ambient was that piece for me. But then they came out with the next generations and they put like different filling in different places and different kinds of material. I'm just like, eh. And they moved away from the quarter zip. But yeah, for apparel, the Sitka Ambient original hoodie for sure. The one piece I keep in my pack, and it's funny because we should talk about this because you guys now offer a competitive piece, which I'm more than willing to admit may be better than the one I currently have. The one piece that never comes out of my pack that I never hear anybody talk about is the Z-Packs 7x9 Dyneema tarp. Now I pair that with 6 carbon fiber tent pegs and the 1.8 mil Dyneema cord. And I can get a tarp with pegs and cord to 5.4 ounces. And so there's never an argument to not take it.
Yeah.
There's no benefit, like there's no deficit, there's no drawback. I don't like sil nylon. I think sil poly is a vastly superior fabric. And so when it comes to a sil tarp, if you want to save money, go sil nylon. But that's another one where you don't need to buy it right away, but when you've got the money, get a good Dyneema tarp, because you can build yourself a vestibule out of your tent. You can use it as a glassing tarp. You can get out of the rain with it. You can have lunch with it. It shakes water off right away.
Collect water with it.
It collects water with
Doesn't
it.
stretch.
Yeah.
Dude,
which I did. When we were trapped under the tent, we couldn't make it out because we were in the first time ever being in a lightning snowstorm in New Mexico this year with Omar, and we couldn't make it to the water. I'm like, dude, I'm just
we got
sitting
water.
right here with my cup right off the Dyneema. It was great. I was drinking water all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's a great one.
Yeah. And so I never leave home. I never leave home without that. When it comes to optics, this breaks my heart because I'm like such a purist. Like I have 12 by 42 NL Pures, and like I want to take those with me every time I go hunting, and they're just lonely in the corner of my gear locker now because I take the Zulu 6s every time. Listen, they're not perfect. They know how I feel about the limited field of view. They know how I feel about the low light performance. I've already done an updated review on the HDX Pros. And the funny thing is, and I know because people are going to ask, there is no perfect answer between those two. Those two, the HDX and the HDX Pros, are different tools for
totally
different jobs.
different,
And what I like to say to people, if you want to archery elk hunt in the rut, you want a pair of HDX.
Yep.
If you are going to mule deer hunt, you want the HDX Pros. I like to say, do the last 30 minutes and the first 30 minutes of the day matter to you? And are you going to be spending a significant amount of time on a glassing knob? You get the HDX Pros. Recognize they're way heavier. You're going to need a new bino harness because they got to be large, and they don't handhold with one hand nearly as well as the HDXs. And it's tough. And I would say if you're only going to own one pair, just ask yourself, what am I doing more of? And get that one. And if anything, the HDX Pros might be the better one to only have, because then at least you have access to that low light performance if you need it. But they are, and I find it's so weird when people are, because they're not even that expensive. Like when people are like, this is my budget for binos, I'm like, go get the SIGs. Like just do it. Because I always tell people, if there was $10,000 on the line and you had to find as many objects on that field as possible, and you could use a $3,000 pair of binoculars in your hands or a $1,000 pair of binoculars on a tripod, what would you use? Anybody with a brain is going to say $1,000 pair of binos on a tripod. And if that's your answer, you want the SIG image stabilizing, because their ability. So where I guide in Alberta is in the prairies. There's these giant coulee systems. There's freaking mule deer all over the place, and you're on these huge pieces of property, big rivers. You're up there like half an hour before the sun comes up, and you got all your high-powered optics. So as soon as the sun comes up, you're just like picking up deer. And then the idea is you watch them bed in these coulees, and then you bed them. You drop your little points on your Onyx, and you take your hunters in. Sorry, Go Hunt maps.
Just to be clear.
And see, that's another review people have been asking for that I need to do. And I talked to you about that a while ago. I got to do a head-to-head between Onyx and Go Hunt.
I would love to see
And
that.
I do use both, to be honest with you. And I think it's interesting that you each have, like, there's little features in each. I'm like, I like that one better. Oh, I like that one better.
Well, that's your talk about competition. It's like there are some things we can't keep up with them.
And I guarantee you guys made them better.
Oh, we did. Like 100%.
Nobody else who came out with a map did. They all kind of sucked. But for sure, you guys forced them to get better.
And their team's 10 times bigger. There are things that we can't do, but there are things that we can be real creative on and do better.
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
But once you bed these bucks, you're going on these like 400-yard stalks to get in. And the game with those deer is, can I find that deer before that deer or another deer finds me? And here's the problem. I'm moving, they're not. So we do this thing called staircasing, where you like take a couple steps and the coulee will like open up in front of you because you're getting closer to this rim. So the far rim opens up. And you're like scanning that far rim because you're trying to just find a little time before they see me. They find me way more often than I find them first. But I was on day 3 of a hunt, and my client kept picking up deer before me. And I'm just like, I can't be having this, man. Like, this is not a good look. And he was using the SIGs, and I had my 12 by 42s. And we switched for a day, and I crushed him. And I'm like, it's a function of the glass, man. The stabilization. There is very rarely, I will tell you, that a piece of gear will lead you to killing more things. SIG binos will. You will find more stuff offhand. Like, it's just it's a fact.
That's literally a DM I get probably 2 or 3 times a week between SIGs and Swaros. And I give them the answer. They're like, really?
What?
And then I give them the answer again, explain all the features. Like, the features are going to help me kill. And like you just said, walking and being on the glass.
Yep.
Whereas you have to drop on a tripod and try to do it. I run and gun in glass all the time. So like the amount of time I have to move around, set up a tripod, try to do it, try to get comfortable. And I can just like lean back and like glass one-handed, glass two-handed, glass while I'm hiking. Like, features are going to kill.
Yeah.
I actually think the biggest gain that those make is as an archery hunter is the final 200 yards.
No question.
Because I've been using some binoculars the last week and a half at the local archery range, and they're not stabilized. Glass is phenomenal. They've got some things about them that are really, really cool. But pulling those out, resting them on my cam, not stabilized, I can't see what I can see through a SIG.
Yep.
Image stabilized bino.
Yeah.
And I think that final 200 yards, when you really have to pick up an antler tip, you're looking for hide on an elk in a really thickly timbered, patch. Like, that has been, in my opinion, the biggest gain of
Or
those
leg
binos.
movement, walking through the trees.
Yeah,
Like,
it really
when
is
you're just have these
incredible.
little tiny gaps
Yeah.
in the stick trees, and you're just looking for one little piece of leg
Yeah.
movement. Having that stabilized bino is
Yep.
everything.
And I'm with you. I wanted to fight it forever.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not a Swaro.
Yeah.
That's not a Leica.
It's not
Yeah.
Zeiss. It's not one of the big 3. There's no way it's as good.
That's not my crowd.
My NL peers are in my garage,
Yeah.
and they have not seen the light of day since. And I've told this story before. Sorry if anybody has heard this, but the reason I recovered my stone sheep when I shot it with a bow was because of those 6 stabilized.
Right.
I mean, somehow, some way, we got into this Bandit 8 rams. There was ewes and lambs. I mean, literally everywhere, 100 yards off to our left. I shot when my ram stood up, and I shot, that mountain literally exploded. Sheep went everywhere. I've never seen anything like it. Like, sheep went everywhere. I mean, there was probably 150 ewes and lambs, and then the 8 rams. And I flicked on my stabilized, and I'm scanning, and I saw blood pouring out of the front of one of the rams, and he peeled off with 2 or 3 other rams. The guide I was with, because we can't hunt by ourselves up there.
Yep.
Neither can you. Well, you can't hunt Alberta by yourself, but we were trying to go. I'm like, no, he went off this way. I saw my ram. I know for sure, because rams, it's hard to pick a ram when they're in a band of 8. They're all relatively the same
They all got
size.
horns.
Yeah, like none of them. It's not like one had strikingly different characteristics. And that is why I recovered my ram. I saw him peel off, and I saw him bleeding out the front of his chest. I'm like, no, it's a kill shot. He thought something different. I'm like, do you want these binos? Like, I'm telling you right now. We go start peeling off, and found his blood tracks in the snow.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible.
Done.
Yep.
But like, I picked him out of 150 sheep. It's crazy how stabilized they are. And that's after a shot shaking like crazy, mountain blowing up, the whole thing. That's what they do.
Yeah. You got a knife you like?
Oh man, I go back and forth. If I had to pick my favorite knife right now, so Frontiersman Gear, Tanner Danish, he's a buddy of mine. He's out of British Columbia. There's a couple BC knife makers I like a lot. Bruce Culberson is another one, Back Knives, and Mike Jones, Knife and Tool. But my favorite processing knife is probably the Frontiersman I have, and it's the 4-inch model of the new Ridgeline series that he has in like the name of it is escaping me right now. But it's another area where I've stopped counting ounces. Like, I was a big, what's that one? Not Havana. The Havalon. Big Havalon guy for a long time, and I prefer a fixed blade.
For everything?
For most stuff.
Gotcha.
Like, listen,
You pack
I'm
both or
going on
just-
a pretty severe goat hunt in August. I'll probably try and count ounces and take one on that. Actually, Day 6 Gear has a really interesting knife that I haven't tested yet.
Yeah.
It flips out. And so one of the problems with a fixed blade, especially once you start getting into bigger critters, is like, okay, well, now I got to carry a sharpener. And it's like that. Now we're talking about legitimately adding 3 or 4 ounces that I might have not have needed. And so I love this idea of being able to flip it and basically get two
blades.
sharp edges out of one. So that's probably the one I'm going to take on my goat this year. But when I'm guiding, when I'm doing a bunch of animals, when I'm doing an elk, like, I got paws. I want something with a handle that I can like work. And yeah, that Frontiersman is probably my favorite all-purpose knife right now.
Gotcha. What do you like for a boot? I know you're Canadian, so you probably say plastics or.
No, it's really, so for starters, my boot size is 14.
What?
So, yep. So
You wear a 14?
I wear 14. So it's normally not a function of like, what do I want? It's like, what do they
What do they have? Yeah.
And so some of the things that I've had good success with recently, I ran Scarpa Rebel HDs last year. Really liked those. Something happened to them over the fall. I was guiding moose for like 3 straight weeks and like floating in a river. And I was putting snow seal on them every single day without ever cleaning them out. I think I overloaded with them. And when I took them out in January, they were just like bricks. And nothing I can do is getting the life back into that leather. So I'm not going to wear those this year. My favorite all-purpose boot for years was the Schnee's Beartooth. Like it was just great elk boot, like just a, but I prefer a stiffer boot. I tend to be big. I tend to wear heavy packs. I like a stiffer boot. I had Morton's neuroma in one foot. So it's been just this nerve issue, but I need a wide toe box. So you start really limiting the selections. When it comes to winter hunting, the La Sportiva Nepal GTX has been my go-to, like the big classic yellow thing. That's the one I got in Frostbite this year. It was so cold this year. I think once you get below minus 10 or 15 Fahrenheit, you got to go with a dual layer boot, like a Scarpa Phantom. You need something with a shell and a neoprene sleeve so that you can sleep in your neoprene sleeve at night and dry it out in your bag. And then the shell, it will be some type of material that won't absorb water, not plastic. Wearing a traditional boot was just not possible. Trying to get my foot in that boot in the morning was insanity. I was even putting like boiling water in Nalgene's and sticking it in. It got, okay, so here's a crazy fact. At 5 p.m., between 5 p.m. and 5:44 p.m., it would drop 12 degrees in 45 minutes. And if I didn't get my boots off before 6, one night I almost didn't get my boots off because my boots froze on my feet while my foot was in the boot.
Yikes.
Like couldn't get the laces undone, couldn't get them back through the eyelets. Like I'm looking at my feet. I'm like, how am I going to get in my tent, man?
Gosh.
So
That's why that time of year is for football, food, and fireplaces. That's the 3X, man. Once you hit that time of year, it's football, food,
Freeze
and
your
fireplaces.
boots on your feet.
yeah.
No, thank
That's
you.
a new one.
But I was talking with Trail a little bit before the podcast. My goal for this year, I want to find a non-insulated boot that's fully crampon compatible, which means it needs a heel welt and a toe welt. And there are very, very few boots that offer this, let alone one in my size. Mammoth has one. Mindel has another one. I think Scarpa might have one or might not, but that's kind of what I'm looking for this year. I need a really stiff, non-insulated leather boot, and ideally it would be fully crampon compatible because where I go goat hunting, even in August, I'm looking for the ability to put crampons on.
How many miles would you say you put on a boot before you feel like it's broken in?
That's a good question. I want typically at least a couple months at home. I think the stiffer the boot, the more important the fit is. I think that's, and I don't mean to like throw them under the bus, but like a lot of these softer boots that people think are so great, it's like, well, it's because you're wearing a pair of sneakers. Like Nikes feel great on everybody's foot. But how much functional support and structural support are they offering to you? Little to none. So the more you decrease the movement in that boot, the more important it is that your foot is in exactly the right spot. So I actually think finding the right fit is more important than the break-in period. And that's why I recommend to people, especially in Canada, you order 3 or 4 pairs of boots. Keep them at your house. Don't take them outside. And when you wear them, put them on in the morning and leave them on until the night. Because what you're not getting when you try something on for an hour is like blood rushing down to your foot getting hot and swelling. So I'll wear them by sitting at my desk. I'll walk up the stairs. I'll do like calf raises on stairs. I'm paying attention to heel slippage. Because when you put your foot in a boot that fits your foot perfectly, that stuff disappears. And you could almost take those for a couple training hikes and then go right on the mountain. It's the further away you get from a perfect foot, the more you need to break it in so it fits your foot. But even with...
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's something you can do affordable because there's no decent boot company that won't return boots that, as long as they haven't been taken outside, you're fine.
Sure.
And they're like, man, boots are expensive.
Yeah, they are, man.
Yeah.
Do you have soft feet? Are you they pretty hardy?
No, they're pretty hardy. Yeah.
My feet are extremely hardy.
Yeah.
Like I can take out any boot and go.
Yeah.
So like I've never had to pay attention to that side of it.
My problem is the toe box.
Porter
If
and
the
all these
toe box
guys.
is too small, I will get these like this nerve thing in my toes. Like it's brutal.
I will know immediately if it's not tall enough for my feet or
Yeah.
wide enough for my toe box. Like I'll know immediately. If it is, then I can wear them next day and I'm fine.
Yeah. The only boots that have ever completely thrashed my feet were Lathrop and Sons, and apparently they were custom molded to my feet.
You tried those
Same.
too, right?
Yeah, and I tried
Bro.
to send them back all the time and try to add things onto it. I could not wear those. I broke them in, wore them for like multiple months.
100%.
I remember that.
Every time I would put them on, I would get a blister.
Yeah.
Even though my feet were like well in tune to hunting season already. Like, I don't know what it is. I wanted to love them.
Yep, same.
I like the guys too.
Yeah.
I feel like they're nice guys.
They
but like,
threatened to sue me.
Did they really?
It's only
Oh,
people
no.
that have ever threatened to sue me.
God, that's not good.
Yeah. It was one of the first big reviews I did, and I'm like, okay, now we're cooking. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it's supposed to be. I bought it. I'll say what I want. I didn't like it. I'll be honest. I think the construction of the boot is good. I am still unclear as to what their custom fitting process consists of.
Yeah.
I emailed and texted multiple times. I'm like, can you just send me one picture of anything being customized on this boot, please? Because I keep sending it back to you, and it keeps coming back fitting my foot exactly like how it left. So I, just based on my experience, nothing has changed about this boot. Please show me what you changed. They could never show me anything that changed.
Yeah, I couldn't wear that at all.
Again, the people who love Lathrops, I think it's because they fit your foot, which is fine. I think it's a good boot if it fits your foot, but I don't think it's a magic. We're going to make this boot fit
Everybody.
foot. Yeah. They got really upset.
Well, man, I could pick your brain for days. Like how you start down a rabbit hole, and it's like this. I want to know your ideas. We'll have to have you back some other time when you make it to Vegas, or maybe we'll make it to BC.
Come up for a bear hunt.
Which would sounds incredible. Actually,
But I will say though, the gear reviews you do, like I try to do my part and like, test all this gear and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm just like, I just want to look up on the internet to see something, and you review gear that I'm interested in. Like I've done like your power bank stuff before, headlamp stuff, the Rebels we just talked about. I was watching your video the other week because I was considering those, or the La Sportiva Equilibriums.
Yep.
So it's like you put out reviews that I think a lot of people do want to watch, because it's very important stuff, and it's like very in depth when you do it. And it's like, I appreciate how, like, some of them are 45 minutes long.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, how can you talk about 45 minutes about this subject?
Dude, it's crazy.
But
I don't
then
know either.
Then I watch them and I'm like, okay, like they're really good.
It's all meaningful information.
When you did the headlamp, right? So you did the Peaks headlamp.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll jump on and do an overview. Like, hey, this is a Peak headlamp. This is how much it weighs. This is where you turn it on. And I watched yours, and I was like, holy shit, this is an entire different beast. Like, you're telling me, how much light.
I had light meters in my bathroom. I was measuring them every hour.
How much heat it pushes out, how much the battery decreases, and how many hours. Like, you definitely pour your heart and soul into it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain type of, personality to do it.
And it's a certain type of audience, because some people be like, this is too much. And it's like, great, you're not my people.
Yeah.
I don't make highlight reel hunting films, and I don't make quick gear reviews that like tell you what to go buy. I'm trying to make informed consumers. I don't know you. I don't know what you need. I'm going to tell you everything I know about this product, and that's going to empower you to make your own decision.
I think it's super cool.
Even the other day, I saw your Garmin Whoop one. Like, you'll see here, I have the same thing you do, Garmin, and I got a Whoop.
Yeah, brother.
I've used
Join the club.
I've used the Whoop for 2 years because of the heart rate and because of my sleep data. I haven't watched your video yet, but I have it flagged as
the heart rate and sleep data is
like the Garmin does not have that, but Garmin has all sorts of other features.
Better on the Whoop.
I left mine at home today.
You never have anything.
But it's not even comparable.
It's literally not even comparable. When people ask me about that, I'm like, dude, just stop.
Yeah.
It's not even comparable.
But a video like that's perfect for
why?
Whoop is the
For a
best
fitness tracker, the Whoop crushes.
Yeah,
I
it's
wanted
not
it to be
even
the Garmin because I didn't want to wear both. When you go back, and I picked apart all the data, when you see the windows, this thing is not gathering data. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
You can barely call it a fitness tracker. If you turn it on, like, okay, I'm going on a hike now, you will get some meaningful data out of it, but its ability to background track is next to useless.
Whoops where it's at then.
Yeah. But it doesn't do anything that this doesn't do. So if you're OCD about training, you have no choice but to wear both.
Yeah, that's why I have to have
And if
both.
you're like, and just to be clear, if you're really going for it and you really want to know, get a heart strap, chest strap. Like that'll be better than the Whoop too. So like there is levels. There's levels to it, but there's no, daily wearable heart rate strap. That's the only problem.
Yep.
Or a chest strap, I mean. That's the only issue.
Interesting.
But like trying to do certain zone training on a Garmin, you got no shot.
Yeah.
You got to go whoop all day.
You ready for hunting season? You jonesing?
Yeah, I got hunters showing up in four weeks.
Man, you're there.
So, yeah, I'll head out. I was out scouting last Friday. I'll head back up, start picking camp spots, doing all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I'm stoked.
What's the weather up there for that?
It's going to be a little bit of both. This time of year, it could be anything. We're not going to get pounded on with rain for like weeks on end. There could be a couple days in the middle. But the other thing with bears don't care. They come out in rain. They don't come out in rain. The best time ever is when it's been pounding. And this happens a lot in BC. Pounds rain all morning, gets to like 11 or 12, rain breaks. By 1 or 2, it's like cooking hot. And by 3 or 4, you go find a patch of grass, you're finding a bear. Because they've been kind of tucked away doing what they're doing. And then the bugs will come up in the bush, so they come out onto the road. And so rain can even be positive at some point. But it will be pleasant enough hunting conditions. And it's a wall tent or spike camp, depending on what the hunter wants to go after. So it's comfortable enough.
A good deal, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad that you hit me up originally. You're just like, hey, I want to come by the office and check things out. And then I was like, hey, do you want to do a podcast?
Do you want to work while you're on vacation?
I was like, oh, you're on vacation? Let's just take 2.5 hours of your day. So I genuinely very much appreciate it. And I love what you do. I always have been. Been a big fan. So keep it up.
Can I do one shout out thing?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in a hunt, jay@mindfulhunter.com. I have my own subscription website for reviews with like forums and stuff, mindful-reviews.com. If you want to join that, go ahead. If anybody joins between now and April 30th, I'm giving away a pair of 6 Sauer Zulu 10 15 power binoculars. All you got to do is join up. And then for the new boxers I've released, forgedinthebackcountry.com is my apparel brand. This shirt is there. I got hats, and the boxers are really the thing that's knocking it out of the park. But between now and the end of the month, every $5 you spend gets you one entry to win a Swaro ATX 85mm spotting scope.
Nice.
So, any support greatly appreciated. And even if you don't buy anything and you want help with some gear, just DM me on Instagram. I'm always more than happy to chat.
Very good. Well, thanks for doing it again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That's good.
Canadians always so nice, man. Always so nice.